Hi, I hope you're having a good day. This is Gary Zacharias, and this is the Apologist bookshelf. I haven't covered this book before. I thought I had, but it's called The New Tolerance. Josh McDowell and Bob Hostetler are the authors, and it's subtitled How a Cultural Movement Threatens to Destroy You, Your Faith, and Your Children. Now, this book is about 26 years old, I guess, something like that, 25, 26 years old. So some people are going to say, well, that seems out of date. Well, no, it's not, unfortunately. This cultural movement is out there, and it really does threaten a lot of traditional Christian families. It's this whole idea of tolerance. And I like the book because it helps us understand what's going on, and it equips us so we can counter the effects that it has on our faith and especially on our next generation. So there are 4 areas that they say on the back that this book attempts to do to empower us to neutralize the threat so we can discern truth from error, to genuinely accept others without approving of their behavior. I mean, that's a huge deal. And third, teaching children to discern between acceptance and approval. And fourth, lovingly to respond to a hostile culture. And I'm afraid that last one, unfortunately, over these last 20, 25 years since the book was written, this is getting to be a bigger and bigger challenge, a bigger issue for Christians, how to be loving and yet be involved in a hostile culture that doesn't want our message. And it's easy to get angry and lash back. All right, so I'm just going to kind of walk through the book here. So for the first blog, I'll just pick up chapter 1. It's called A Growing Threat. And this is Josh speaking. He said he thought he knew what people meant when they used that word tolerance, but it's 2 different things now. He said, if you look up the dictionary, the traditional meaning of tolerance, here's what Webster says: to recognize and respect others' beliefs, practices, etc., without sharing them. And it also says this: to bear or put up with someone or something not especially liked. But he said that's not what that word means anymore. So he has a lot of good examples here. Now I wanted to share some of them with you just to get you kind of shocked if you're not aware of it. I bet you are. Here's an example. Gerald Warner. He's a professor at Arizona Western College in Scottsdale, Arizona. He'd had all sorts of really good reviews as a professor, but then he got involved in the Christian Student Union on campus. And then his department chair didn't like an event that he was going to be part of. And he was informed he couldn't be permitted to host the meetings in his classroom without prior permission from the vice president's office. And this is despite the fact that other faculty hosted club meetings all the time without any prior permission. Well, that wasn't the end of his problems. In 1995, the professor received notice his contract would not be renewed. Well, what do you call that? Being fired. And an attorney who was helping him said the minute he became identified with CSU, the Christian Student Union, they said he'd been given really high evaluations before, and now it seems like it's exactly what's happening to him now is exactly responsible because of his sponsorship of CSU. Here's another story. Beverly Schnell, she wanted to find a tenant to help her remodel a 100-year-old home, and then she would give him lower rent. So, as a Christian, she hoped to offer the job to a dependable, mature fellow believer. So she placed a classified ad, quote, for a mature Christian handyman. Now, can you imagine how this is going to turn out? Government officials leaped into action. They saw this as the ad as a clear case of sexual and religious discrimination, and it said most ads would cost $6 to $8. Well, it cost her $8,000 for fines and fees that the state imposed on her. How about 3 more real short examples? Here's Shannon Berry. She was a first grader in Florida. She began talking to a classmate at recess. Keep in mind, recess, not during class, at recess about their mutual faith in Jesus. A teacher who overheard this drew them aside and reprimanded them, said they weren't allowed to talk about Jesus at school. Then in New York, something kind of like that. A 3rd grade teacher stopped a child from reading the Bible in her free time. And the child started crying. The teacher said, don't bring that forbidden book to school again. Here's another 4th grader. This time he made the mistake of bowing his head over his lunch to whisper a silent prayer. Oh, that was not good. He ended up going to the principal's office, had a warning. If he ever tried to pray again, even silently, he'd be disciplined. Good grief. How about a city in Illinois? They passed an ordinance prohibiting home meetings. Well, that'd be for homeschooling, home churches, Bible studies, prayer meetings of more than 3 people at a time. Good land. I mean, this is the kind of stuff that's been going on since the 1990s because, of course, for McDowell to put this book together, I think it was 1998, he had to take stuff that was happening even before then. So it's happening. It's out there. Well, then Josh moves to defining tolerance one more time. So new tolerance is way different than the traditional idea. So it used to be to respect people that you disagreed with. You didn't share their ideas. And it said, if you look at the Bible, Christians are supposed to act kindly toward each other, right? It says in Romans 12, live in harmony. If it's possible, live at peace with everyone. Romans 15, accept one another as Christ accepted you. Ephesians 4, be completely humble and gentle. Be patient, bearing with one another in love. Same chapter, Ephesians 4, be kind and compassionate to one another. Colossians 3, bear with each other and forgive whatever grievances you may have against one another. Galatians 6, as we have opportunity, let us do good to all people, especially to those who belong to the family of believers. So that's traditional tolerance. And the idea behind it is that we're supposed to respect and protect the rights of others, even if we disagree with them and are different. You know, the old story about everyone has a right to his or her own opinion. We're supposed to listen to and learn from other perspectives or other cultures and other backgrounds. Okay, that makes sense. We're supposed to live peaceably in spite of differences. The Bible in Hebrews 12 says, make every effort to live in peace with all men. We're supposed to accept people, regardless of race, creed, nationality, or sex. And think about Jesus. He interacted with a Samaritan woman. He ate meals with tax collectors. He even touched lepers. Boy, all those things were strict taboos for Jewish men of Jesus' day. So traditional tolerance values and respects and accepts the individual without approving of their belief or their behavior. So let me say that one more time because that's crucial. We are supposed to respect, we're supposed to value people, but we don't necessarily approve of their belief or behavior. That's tolerance. Okay, but now the new tolerance, it sounds the same, but this new tolerance is based on an idea that's not in the Bible, and here it is. Truth is relative to the community in which a person participates. And since there are many human communities, there are different truths. So you got that? So truth is out the window. There's no such thing as truth with a capital T. Truth is whatever community you're part of. Maybe it's a minority, maybe it's some religious group or whatever. And so we're all part of different communities, so there are a lot of different truths. Truth is described by language. Language is created by humans. Therefore, see where this is going? All truth is created by humans. So tolerance, the current tolerance, the new tolerance, is that all opinions are equal. And I want to slow down on that one. All opinions are equal. That's what the new tolerance says. Each one has its point, and all should be respected or praised. And there's no way to discern, really, between them. So in the new tolerance, every individual's beliefs and their values and their lifestyle and the perception of truth claims are equal. There's no hierarchy of truth. Your beliefs and my beliefs are equal, and all truth is relative. Wow. One more time. All values, beliefs, lifestyles, and truth claims are equal. Okay, so I wanted you to think about it. I bet you can think of a lot of exceptions to that. So, as they say in this chapter, really, all beliefs and values and lifestyles and truth claims, are they equal? It says, aren't there some that don't deserve to be respected? What about the values of the Ku Klux Klan? Do they deserve respect? Any other ethnic supremacist group? Well, what about organized crime cartels? Do we respect their values? And he goes on and on. He said, the Bible makes it clear all values, beliefs, lifestyles, and truth claims are not equal. It teaches that the God of the Bible is the true God. Look in Jeremiah 10:10. All of God's words are true. Psalm 119, 160. And if something is not right in God's sight, it's wrong. That's Deuteronomy 6:18. So that's the view of the Hebrew culture, the Christian culture, the Western culture. It's the truth that's revealed in God's Word. So what's going on here? Well, the idea of this new tolerance is really growing. They did a study, and it revealed that the majority of kids, like 57%, that came from strong evangelical churches, already believe that new tolerance is the way to go. It's the right way, that what is wrong for one person is not necessarily wrong for someone else. They said that's getting worse, too, out there. So to be tolerant these days, you have to agree that another person's opinion is just as valid as your own. Right? You got that? So any person who doesn't believe in absolute truth is going to lose their moral compass. That's what Josh is saying. They're going to lose their ability to distinguish between right and wrong. And it said, can you imagine a child or even an adult who can't distinguish right from wrong is going to be powerless to resist temptation and to choose what's right. They quote from a Dr. James Banks. He had a book, An Introduction to Multicultural Education. Now catch this. Multicultural education is inclusive. A lot of people are on the margins of society. Multicultural education is about bringing them to the center, making one nation for many people. And here it comes. To do that, we have to validate their experiences. So it's not enough to accept people who are on these margins. We have to validate. We have to approve. We've got to pat them on the back. We have to endorse their experiences. We have to endorse their values, their lifestyles, their truth claims, even if it involves homosexuality, abortion, misogyny, or maybe something else that would be really abhorrent to traditional families. Wow. How about New York State? Recently, the regents came up with a new policy. Each student, right, the regents run the schools there in New York State, each student will develop the ability to understand, respect, and accept people of different races. Okay, well, who's got a problem with that? But at the end of the statement, so you've got to accept people and their values, beliefs, and attitudes. Right? Did you catch that? So it's one thing to accept people. Yes, I accept you as a unique individual, but we have to accept their values, beliefs, and attitudes. AFT president, that's American Federation of Teachers, Albert Shanker was the president some years ago. He said, do we really want students to respect and accept the value, beliefs, and attitudes of other people no matter what they are? Do we want to respect and accept the beliefs that led Chinese leaders to massacre dissenting students in Tiananmen Square? And what about the values and beliefs that allowed the Ayatollah Khomeini to pronounce a death sentence on Salman Rushdie? Yeah, exactly. Exactly right. Let's see, this is a story from the Washington Times, a writer named John Leo. He said, in 30 years of college teaching, there's a professor, Robert Simon. He never met a student who denied the Holocaust happened. But what he sees is worse. Students who acknowledge that there was a Holocaust can't bring themselves to say that killing millions of people is wrong. Can you imagine that? Apparently he teaches philosophy at Hamilton College. He says something like 10 to 20% of his students are reluctant to make moral judgments, even about the Holocaust. Now, they'll say, well, I don't like what the Nazis did, but they'll do it in terms of taste or personal preference, not moral judgment. They'll say, this is a quote from one student, of course I dislike the Nazis, but who's to say they're morally wrong? Wow. And as McDowell points out, the new tolerance has created a climate in which people can no longer say that the systematic murder of 6 million people, men and women and children, they can't say that's wrong. Oh, that's terrible. Well, the proponents of the new tolerance, they go on to say, are not going to stop at approval, but they will oppress people, churches, individuals, and communities to gain full participation. So it's not enough to nod your head and say, yeah, go ahead, I think you're all right. You've got to participate in what they're doing. So here's one. Students at a California community college were called ignorant and told to leave their physics class because they stated their belief in the scientific evidences for creation. Now, you notice that, by the way? Talk about hypocritical or two-faced, whatever you want to say. These are the people that tell us to be tolerant of everybody. But if they disagree with your position, in this case, they kick the kids out. Or how about the hospital employee in Texas, ordered to undergo psychoanalysis because of her religious speech to one of her supervisors? So they're pointing out that there's an agenda going on here for the new tolerance, not just accepting. Right? They always couch it in terms of just, can't you accept me? But it's not just accepting people who are different or behave differently. You have to approve of and you have to participate in their attitudes and activities. We see that in those cases, those court cases. I bet you've seen them too, where a gay couple, for example, will want a cake done to honor their practices, and the baker may be a Christian and say, I really can't do that, but here are a whole bunch of other places that you can go to, and they get sued because it's not enough to just accept the person and love them, and you got to go beyond that. In this new tolerance, you have to approve of, you have to participate in their activities. Wow. So those are the first 2 chapters, and I think maybe, I don't know, do I want to stop there? Yeah, maybe I'll just stop there because there's a lot of good meat that we want to chew on as we go through this book. So I'm sorry I missed out on this book, but it's called The New Tolerance. McDowell is always easy to read. I don't know who Bob Hostetler is, but anyway, 2 good authors there, and it's an old enough book, probably around in some kind of used bookstore somewhere. You can pick one up cheap. The New Tolerance, McDowell and Hostetler. I recommend it highly because we need to be aware of and know what we can say and do to keep our kids, especially and grandkids, from being swallowed up by this. It is all over the place. It's like the Borg. It's assimilating everything. A little Star Trek term there. All right. Well, thanks for being part of this podcast, and see you soon.